Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you, just for a moment, to close your eyes, not in rest, but in vision. Look not with the eyes of flesh, but with the eyes of the soul. Can you see it? The life of abundance. Not far, not tomorrow, but now, here, within you. Imagination is not a fleeting fantasy or idle play of the mind. It is the very foundation of reality. What we experience in the outer world is nothing more than a projection, a mirror reflecting what we hold within. Every circumstance, every relationship, every opportunity or lack thereof is molded by the images we sustain in the theater of the mind. We have been conditioned to believe that imagination is separate from truth, that it is merely a dream untethered from fact. But in truth, the facts of life are shaped by the persistent dreams we dare to entertain, or the fears we unknowingly accept as inevitable. The senses are deceivers. They report back to us only what has already been accepted within. They are not originators of truth, but late reporters. The mistake most people make is to look at the external world and judge their life by what is currently happening, not realizing that what is happening now is the result of yesterday's thoughts and beliefs. To change the world, one must first change the self, more specifically, the inner concept of self, and this transformation begins in imagination. Imagination is creative power. It is not passive. It is not an escape. It is the very workshop of the soul, where futures are formed and reality is redefined. When one learns to occupy the state of their desired outcome in imagination, feeling it as real, walking in it mentally, dwelling in its atmosphere as though it were already present, they are no longer wishing. They are creating, and what is created in consciousness must, by law, be objectified in the outer world. There is no exception to this principle. It may not arrive in the form or time expected, but it must arrive. Every great invention, every piece of art, every moment of human progress has first lived in the mind of someone who dared to see the unseen. They walked in the fulfillment of their desire when there was no evidence. They trusted the vision more than the visible. What you imagine consistently becomes more than thought. It becomes identity. And once you assume a new identity in imagination, the world around you reshapes itself to confirm and reflect that identity. This is not about magical thinking. It is about alignment. When the inner world becomes saturated with a particular belief, when you truly feel yourself to be someone new, you begin to speak differently, move differently, choose differently. Those subtle inner changes shift your behavior, your perception, and even what you allow yourself to receive. The external world cannot help but adjust. Life responds to what you are being, not what you are merely wishing for. So the question is not, what is happening to me, but what am I imagining and who am I being? To live from imagination is to take your rightful place as the author of experience, rather than the reader of circumstance. You no longer live at the mercy of the world. You recognize that the world is living at the mercy of your inner state. Feeling is not just an emotional reaction to what happens in life. It is the active force that precedes and shapes events. To live in abundance, one must first feel abundance, not in response to material wealth or external signs of success, but in advance of them. The key lies in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, and that assumption must be accompanied by the feeling of its reality. Without feeling, your desires remain distant concepts, ideas that may never cross into the realm of experience. What you feel deeply and consistently becomes the blueprint for your outer world. It is not enough to affirm abundance with words or visualize it with fleeting images. You must embody it emotionally. You must wake up with the sense that life is full, that your needs are met, and that good flows to you easily. Even if the bank account is low, even if the opportunities seem few, you must dwell in the feeling of wealth, peace, and provision as if they already surround you, because in truth they already do, but your awareness and alignment with that truth is what unlocks their expression. This is where most people falter. They wait for conditions to change so they can feel differently, but this is putting effect before cause. Life does not respond to what we want. It responds to what we feel to be true. When you feel poor, unwanted, or unworthy, no matter how much effort you apply externally, you will continue to encounter situations that mirror that internal state. When you feel rich in spirit, full of gratitude, worthy of joy and success, life bends to support that feeling. It shows up with confirmations that your assumption was right. Feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It's how you impress your desire upon the deeper layers of mind, the creative aspect of consciousness that molds reality. You cannot fake a feeling, but you can cultivate one. Through imagination, repetition, and inner focus, you can begin to generate the emotional state that corresponds to your desired reality. You rehearse it inwardly until it becomes familiar. And once it becomes familiar, the world begins to reflect it. This process is subtle but powerful. You don't always know when the shift will occur, but if you persist in feeling abundance, in walking with the confidence of one who has more than enough, your outer life begins to align. Opportunities arise, people change, circumstances move in your favor, not because you forced them to, but because you tuned your inner state to the frequency of the life you desire. The secret is not the thing itself, it is the feeling of having the thing. When you feel abundant, you draw to yourself the experiences that match that emotion. Your outer world may still appear unchanged at first, but internally everything has transformed, and in time the world must catch up to the feeling that you have chosen to dwell in. To assume the state of the wish fulfilled is to mentally and emotionally occupy the reality in which your desire is already accomplished. It means to live now as the person who already has, already is, and already enjoys the outcome you long for. This is not about pretending or trying to trick the mind with shallow affirmations. It is about entering into a deeper awareness, a felt conviction that what you have imagined is not only possible, but already real in a higher dimension of being. It exists now, and your task is to dwell in that reality inwardly until it becomes the only truth you accept. Your present circumstances may contradict everything you desire, but they are only the residue of past states of consciousness. What you see now is not fixed. It is malleable, changeable, subject to the influence of your inner world. If you can persist in assuming the state of your fulfilled desire, regardless of the current evidence, then the world must reflect that change in due time. The outer follows the inner as certainly as a shadow follows the body. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you are not asking, hoping, or begging for something to happen. You are acknowledging that it already has in the realm of consciousness. This assumption is not passive. It is an active reorientation of your self-image, your emotions, and your beliefs. You begin to think from the end, not of the end. You speak, walk, and feel as the person who already has what they once desired. You remove the distance between yourself and your goal, not by chasing it, but by becoming it. This inner shift alters everything. Your conversations change. Your choices become aligned with your new identity. You no longer struggle to make things happen, because you know they are happening through you. The people, circumstances, and opportunities that match your new state begin to appear, often without effort or planning. They are drawn to the vibration of the fulfilled state you have chosen to embody. This process is natural, though it may feel unfamiliar. It requires faith, not in something outside yourself, but in the power of your consciousness. The more real the inner state becomes to you, the less you are affected by what the senses report. You move through the world with quiet certainty, knowing that what you have assumed must externalize. You may not know how or when, but that is not your concern. The seed contains the pattern of the tree. Once the state is assumed, the process is in motion. Persistency is key. The mind will attempt to revert to the old story, the familiar identity, the apparent facts. But each time you return to the state of the wish fulfilled, you reinforce it. You water the seed, and soon, without strain, the world must shift to confirm what you have already accepted as true in your heart. To assume the state is to create, not by force, but by being. The senses are useful servants, but they are not reliable masters. To ignore the evidence of the senses is not to deny reality, but to understand its deeper origin. The physical world, as you see it, is a mirror reflecting your past thoughts, feelings, and assumptions. It is a delayed echo, not the source. What you see and touch and hear are manifestations that have already been shaped by consciousness. Therefore, to create a new outcome, you must not bow to what the senses tell you is true now. You must instead remain loyal to the vision within, even when the outer world seems to say the opposite. This requires discipline, and even more than that, it requires trust. Trust in the unseen, trust in the power of assumption, trust in the creative force that operates through imagination and feeling. When you hold a desire in your heart and assume it is already fulfilled, the physical world will often delay in its response. During this time, your senses may tempt you to doubt. They will present evidence to the contrary. The bank account may remain low. The relationship may still feel broken. The opportunity may appear out of reach. But none of these are final. They are just shadow, images cast by old beliefs. To allow them to define your truth is to remain stuck in what was. Persistence in assumption means choosing the inner vision over the outer condition. It means continuing to feel, think, and act as though your desire is already yours, no matter how stubborn the world appears. You don't fight the outer world. You simply ignore it, not in the sense of denial, but in the sense of refocusing. You no longer give power to appearances. You give power only to your assumption. The world cannot help but catch up to your inner conviction. This does not mean you walk blindly or recklessly. It means you are guided by a deeper awareness, an inner knowing that what you have accepted as true in imagination will find its way into form. You understand that the world moves by law, and that law begins in consciousness. You cannot plant the seed of an oak and expect roses to bloom. Likewise, you cannot plant the seed of abundance, love, or success in consciousness and reap lack, loneliness, or failure, unless you uproot the seed with doubt. The world tests your resolve not to punish you, but to see if you are ready. The delay between assumption and manifestation is not emptiness. It is incubation. During this period, your job is to remain faithful to your chosen state, to return to it each time the senses try to pull you away, to live from the end, even when nothing around you agrees. Mastery of life begins with mastering attention. Where your attention goes, energy flows. If you place your attention on lack, you grow it. If you place your attention on fulfillment, it must eventually appear. So ignore what is and live in what is becoming. This is the true power of creation. Gratitude is more than a polite gesture or a fleeting emotion. It is a vibrational state of being that aligns you with the very essence of abundance. When you express sincere gratitude, not just with words but with feeling, you are declaring to the universe that you recognize the good already present in your life. This recognition is not passive, it is creative. It draws more of the same into your experience. Just as a tuning fork resonates with a matching frequency, a grateful heart resonates with the frequency of wealth, joy, love, and fulfillment. In this way, gratitude does not simply reflect abundance, it attracts it. A person who practices true gratitude is no longer waiting for life to deliver blessings before they feel blessed. They understand that the feeling of gratitude itself is the magnet. When you are thankful before the thing appears, you are acting in faith. You are assuming the reality of your desire, and this assumption, saturated with appreciation, sets powerful spiritual law into motion. Gratitude becomes a declaration, I have it now, and from that inner declaration, physical confirmation must follow. Most people are taught to be grateful after the fact, after the manifestation, after the problem is solved, after the goal is reached. But this is reactive. It does not shift the inner state. It merely acknowledges what has already arrived. The true power of gratitude is in its proactive use. When you give thanks for what you cannot yet see, you are claiming it as real. You are planting the seed and watering it with belief. You are not begging or hoping. You are knowing. A thankful person walks differently. They speak with the confidence of one who trusts life. They are not desperate, not lacking, not comparing themselves with others. Their focus is not on what is missing, but on what is present, and even more on what is coming. This orientation creates a field of energy that is open and receptive. Life, in return, responds with more to be thankful for. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. Appreciation begets abundance, and abundance deepens appreciation. Gratitude also transforms perception. Two people may live under identical circumstances, but the one who practices gratitude will see opportunities, beauty, and blessings where the other sees only hardship. This shift in perception is not trivial. It is everything, because what you focus on, you feed. What you notice, you multiply. And so, the grateful individual continues to rise, not because their conditions are different, but because their asterisk consciousness asterisk is. In times of struggle, gratitude becomes a lifeline. It is the act of choosing to see light in the midst of darkness, to find reasons for praise even when the evidence is scarce, and this choice is powerful. It interrupts the momentum of lack and redirects the mind toward fullness. It may feel unnatural at first, but with repetition, it becomes the natural language of the soul. Gratitude says, I trust, and that trust opens doors no effort can force. You are the operant power. This means that nothing in your world changes, manifests, or evolves without your participation at the level of consciousness. Life does not move on its own in some random or chaotic way. It is governed, shaped, and directed by the inner world of thoughts, beliefs, and especially assumptions. You are not a spectator in this universe. You are a creator, and the tool of creation is your imagination. Whatever you assume to be true, whether consciously or unconsciously, will play itself out in the theater of your life. This is not metaphorical, it is literal. The events, people, and circumstances in your life are not happening to you. They are happening through you, pushed out from the assumptions you carry. You are constantly creating, whether you realize it or not. Every moment you are imagining something. Every emotional reaction is a confirmation of a belief. Every repetitive thought is an instruction to the subconscious mind. The world you experience tomorrow is being shaped by what you believe and assume today. When you understand this, you stop waiting. You stop hoping that things will just work out. You realize that change begins within. If you want a new outcome, you must adopt a new assumption, not a hopeful wish, but a firm inner acceptance that your desire is already fulfilled. From this place of assumption, you begin to think, feel, and behave differently, and this change in state brings about a change in your circumstances. It is law. Most people are unaware of their power because they believe that life happens outside of them. They try to change the world by force, by action, by external manipulation, but the true cause of experience is always internal. Action alone is secondary. It is the echo of belief. Until the belief is changed, the results remain the same, no matter how much effort is applied. When you assume a new identity in imagination, your actions naturally begin to reflect it, and your environment must reorganize itself to match that new self. Concept. Being the operant power means you no longer look outside for permission or validation. You no longer wait for conditions to be perfect. You create the condition mentally, feel it emotionally, and persist in it spiritually. The external world will eventually yield to your inner dominion because it has no choice. It cannot resist the clarity of a firmly held assumption. What you hold as true in your imagination becomes the pattern for physical manifestation. This truth is both liberating and sobering. Liberating because you no longer need to feel powerless in the face of problems. Sobering because it places full responsibility in your hands. No one else is to blame. No one else holds the key. You are the center of your own reality, and your assumptions are acts of creation. When you embrace this role, when you live from the awareness that your inner state is the cause, you step into the fullness of your creative authority. You do not hope, you know, you do not wish, you assume. In the end, the message is simple yet profoundly transformative. You are not at the mercy of life. You are its architect. The abundance you seek is not something to be earned through struggle or found in the external world. It is something to be assumed, felt and lived from within. Your imagination is the true reality. Your feelings are the channel of creation, and your assumptions are the blueprint for all you experience. The outer world is nothing more than a shadow cast by your inner state. To live as if you are surrounded by abundance is not to wait for proof, it is to become the proof. It is to choose faith over sight, gratitude over lack, and inner conviction over external validation. It is to persist in the unseen, to dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, and to ignore every temporary appearance that contradicts your vision. Because when you do, the world must shift to reflect your new consciousness. You are the operant power. There is no one else. Own that truth, and life will rise to meet your assumption.